Psalm 14. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Bible smack. Alright, I wanted to do one, I think they called this creationist failing and attacking Bill Nye, so I'm responding to that video. And I think that verse, I just use that because it says, they say in their heart. Now, one thing is just like, I think that it's hard to kind of go through a large volume of these videos because of the propaganda. They'll accuse you of a logical fallacy, and then they commit the logical fallacy. So, for instance, they do a lot of saying like, you're begging the question, and yet that's what they do. They beg the question. They don't really. I've never really seen a whole lot of true defense of evolution really being science and really being true. In fact, you don't really see a lot of that stated. And then after they, assume it, then they'll say, you're making the claim. You're making the claim. It's just some little things I skipped down here, kind of off the cuff. He says science is. They assume that science is supposed to be superior to God's word. In other words, they talked to some people from Answers to Genesis. Dr. Dave Minton was one. There was another female biologist that I've seen a little bit. I don't remember her name, but we'll go with Dave Minton. He's got a doctorate. He's got a scientific doctorate. He has made money working and teaching and stuff like that in the name of science and scientific occupations. But they said he's not a scientist. Everybody's not a scientist unless you're part of their race. Okay. They have this kind of quasi-communistic, naturalistic view of the world, and if you're not one of them, then you don't know science. You don't know anything, So, in fact, they start, it's like, well, this is not intelligent. You're not intelligent. Therefore, you're stupid. Should I educate you? Should I, explain this? No, I should hate you because you're obviously stupid, because you disagree with me. So it's very narcissistic, and then it becomes very tyrannical and, kind of scary because, we talked about how, some of these atheistic ideas, when pushed through the logical conclusion would start to go into somebody like Hitler. And then what comes out of these people's mouths goes along with that. They're just like, yeah, I'm the smartest person in the world. I'm objective. I'm this. I'm all that. I'm a scientist. Or I watch science on TV, and that's good enough. And so you disagree. Therefore, you're stupid. Therefore, you're evil. And we hate you. And now we ought to kill. It's like, so basically, they do fulfill their prophecies very easily. In the video, he calls her creationist buffoons, and then misspells buffoon. And anyhow, so they think that science is supposed to be superior to God's word, otherwise it's not science. Now, the problem is that all the major scientists were people who believed in God and, for the most part, believed in creation. It's not like they had a Big Bang theory or an evolutionary theory or anything like that. So, the people who started all the sciences, they started off and they all believed in God's word. But one thing they try to switch on you is just because you believe something doesn't mean you don't test something. Okay, as the sciences were started, not only did you have all the major categories of science developed by creationists, but you also had a creationist ideology theory. And basically that theory was we call it intelligent design. And you hear about the watchmaker argument. And they observed a lot of things that were a lot more intensely organized and well organized than a watch. If you're walking down the street and you see a flat metal object that says Coke on it, you look at it and you think, Well, this is a Coke can. It was a can and it was designed by a man because this is the word Coke. You don't go into a whole lot of, even though it looks a lot different, you knew that there was a design to it. You knew that somebody made that. Okay. Now we start getting into, the excessive microbiology and stuff, and then, oh, come on now. So belief and testing, though, are not equivalent. You can still test. I would encourage people to test. I just recently saw a video DVD called Finding Noah, and some archaeologists and geologists who are happen to be creationists. They went up to the Mount Ararat and they tested it, and they found out that what they had tested, they could not find Noah's Ark. And so here they believed something, and yet they tested it. But they're creationists. They're not supposed to do that. They're not supposed to test something, whether it's right or wrong. No, because they're not scientists, because they're not creationists, or because they are creationists. So what is that? That's very obviously bigoted. Okay, it's very stupid. So what can I conclude? Okay, and that was like the more outside the mainstream guys that are more independent creationists. So why is it that they were following a scientific process and trying to test something and then admitting they were wrong about something, if creationists are supposed to be non-scientific? Okay. But no, there's a difference between believing something and testing something. Now, you change and adapt theory, right? No, but we're not supposed to because we're creationists. Well, yeah, we do. We got lots of different types of creationist theories that we argue with. They get after us about appeal to popularity. They constantly will tell you that, like, everybody believes in evolution, and they'll be like, oh, you have a whole 100 years and all these scientists and all this kind of stuff that believe in evolution. Everybody believes it. And then they say, well, that's an appeal to popularity. That is a fallacy. Okay, you are fallacious then. Most of the time you want to argue that everybody believes something, so you don't have to think anymore. Okay, because there's all sorts of sciences, everybody. So stop thinking. Don't try to observe anything. No, you're not qualified. You'd only be qualified if you agree with everything that we say as we say it. Why? Because it's a religion. Okay, it's secular humanism. It's a religion. Next thing. Bill Nye said, oh, well, he didn't even imply this, and that was this statement he made, and you can watch the video, about the children, and he's like, look, if you want to do this, blah, blah, blah. Well, what they were trying to say is you see, he was inclusive. But then he said, all and every single amount of evidence disagrees with what you say. So then, like, if you want to push your anti-science, just don't push it on the kids. So if you tell them something you believe, and he says that's absolutely against every single form of science, because he knows every single fact, because he's got a bachelor's degree, but he knows every fact in the universe, and so obviously there's no way that creationism could ever be right, could ever be scientific, could ever be believed, and therefore, you're doing a crime against science, so don't do that crime against your kids. And so yeah, that's exactly what he's implying. Okay. Let's see here. And it says evolution is. Oh yeah, here's the ultimate thing. Evolution is not science. I mean, he talks about like a good scientist. He goes by observations and then he does experiments. Okay. Number one, I'm going with a wider evolution theory, the wider secular humanism, where you have the Big Bang all the way through. Okay, because that is the common idea. Our public schools are going under the idea of evolution from the Big Bang all the way to today. Okay, and then these, people want to sit here and they say, oh, well, we're only talking about biological evolution. Biological evolution doesn't matter if there's no old Earth. And there is no old Earth unless you have a time frame. And if you have a time frame, then you have to go with the Big Bang Theory. Okay? So let's just be a little bit honest here. All right? You're really lying to people when you say, like, evolution is just biological, and then you say, oh, it's all true, it's all fact. What fact? Okay? All right, you say I came from a monkey. Which monkey did I come from? Darwin said I came from a orangutan. Other people say I came from a chimp. And then you got other people who will say that there's some in-between species. You have three different things, and you don't have a fact. The thing is, the whole cycle is it's like, okay, well, there was nothing. When did we see nothing? We never saw nothing. And then the nothing became something. Oh, well, some people say, oh, no. There were parent universes and aliens and all that kind of stuff. Oh, when did you see those? No, we didn't see those. Right? So, then the nothing became something, and the nothing made rules of science, and nothing made time, and all the concepts that we have, because everything works according to science, but science is supposed to be in your head. The laws of science are something that we have constructed. But if we constructed them, then how do they operate outside of us? Does matter work? If matter works, what's making matter work? Did the Big Bang make science? Is that what you're trying to say? The Big Bang made the laws of science? And then you say the Big Bang was, feasible under the laws of science. How could it be under the laws of science when it created the science? Okay? But you say, no, the Big Bang was created by the laws of science. How? Right? Because gravity wouldn't work that way. Gravity doesn't take a dot, okay, and then turn into 99% of the universe. We didn't see the stars form. Okay, that's another thing. It's bull. Okay, we didn't see the planets form, and that'll be another thing. You got all these little, dust, and like the dust's supposed to gather together, and then eventually it'll form a rock, and then that'll hit another rock at 400 or 500 miles an hour, and that's supposed to stick together. Okay, it's not gonna explode. No, it's all just gonna slowly form together at thousands of miles an hour. All right. Dark matter. We ain't ever seen dark matter, dark energy, dark photons. It's like tons of stuff. 95% of the universe we've never observed. Okay, that's what you're trying to sell here, and you're saying you're scientific because you never saw it. You do experiments on it, it doesn't work. Okay, they've done experiments trying to find dark matter, never found it. Okay, the experiments they found the ether. That is for my course on New Year's cosmology class, so you got to go look and check that out. Nevertheless, we'll move on. So yeah, he's like being a good scientist. And they'll say if you do this, then you should do some adjustments on your theory. Maybe you should come up with another theory. No, we always keep our theory because we're promoting a religion and it's not science. Right? That's why they never change the theory. It doesn't matter how much it screws up. Okay, Darwin had cells as simple globs. And now we observe cells as a trillion different parts. How did the trillion different parts get together? So, abiogenesis is a totally different thing than the rest of evolution. Then evolution doesn't have a starting point. And if evolution doesn't have a starting point, then you have to go with history. That's right. You have to actually find figures in the past who observed things and made claims. It's called history. And you don't have any history of evolution, and you don't have any theory of abiogenesis. Everything just falls apart when it comes to that stuff. All right, how do we have molecules fixing molecules when it comes to fixing that DNA helix? Anyway, so let's see here. What else did I say? Yeah, and so yeah, they beg the question constantly throughout this whole thing. And oh yeah, then they start talking about the Bible when they call it You're just getting from a book. The Bible's just a book. This author, somebody wrote a book. All right, there's Bible. Bible actually means a library. Okay, it doesn't mean a book. There's a collection of books. And I know you're not educated, so say, we're educated, we know all this stuff. No. He's got 66 books in our canon anyway, the true church's canon. I know that there's other Bibles that Catholics and Eastern Orthodox bring with different lists of books, but this is the true one. But anyhow, that goes back to it. Okay, and you're probably like, yeah, other people, they got other books in the Bible. Other books in the Bible. It's a book. So, like, you're saying that, it can't say stuff, okay, because it's just a book. But if it's 66 books, and it's written by many different authors over 1,500 years, then what you have is you have different witnesses, and they can be used as evidence. Okay? And the thing is that this book is history, and it's been shown to be history. It's, been shown to have the topography and the geography and all these other things that line up with the other observations. It's been shown to be dealt with more historical facts. There are more historical facts recorded in the Bible than any other ancient work of antiquity. Okay? But he says it's a book. Yeah. It's a book you can't use. Don't use the book. I don't know whether they do like an A or something. Well, I don't want to do that one. But anyway, they're like, it's the book. We don't want to hear. And I confront atheists and they'll say, don't you give me the Bible first. Okay. But, I'm just saying that many I have done that to me. Okay. I know there's others that ain't that bad. Yeah, so, let's see here. They talk about the thousands and thousands of experiments. Show them, please. Show them, please. Show them, please. You talk about, it's peer-reviewed research. We have all these experiments. I keep on hearing that, and I don't hear the experiments. Right? And how do you know your experiments are actually working on anything? They say, we know that a mouse has DNA like a human. Alright, so if this is kind of goes back to Plato about being, it's a mental problem, okay? Just because something is similar doesn't mean it's the same. Okay? A mouse is not a person. And a person is not a rock or an ape. A person's a person. And they, fall apart. So, yeah, it just doesn't work. It's the idea of everything. It goes back to barbarism. You don't even need language after that. Because everything's the same. It's like, no. If you find a similarity, okay? If you look at chocolate and you look at poop, you think, ooh, they're related because the chocolate is brown and smooth and the poop is brown and smooth. They're the same. Woo! Okay, so then obviously you should eat the poop because it looks the same. Okay, everything's the same. We're all related. So, it's like the chocolate is related to the poop, so they should be pretty close to the same thing, right? Yeah, eat the poo. Okay. And, let's see here. So, the big thing is when will evolution be proved? You said you proved it. And you proved it because some DNA is like other DNA. And I'm betting you probably didn't go through the whole thing. Is the mice's tail DNA like the human's tail DNA? Does it what about our whiskers? All right, do we have the same whiskers as a mouse? No. How about the bird's beak? Is the bird's beak like my beak? Okay. And then so notice one of there's a lot of different logical fallacies used. One is the fallacy of induction and stuff. Another one is the fallacy of reification, but I forgot. I don't have all the logical fallacies memorized, and that becomes a problem because you see the problem in the logic, and sometimes you just don't remember how to identify it. But yeah, there is just this assert. Oh yeah, like if we say nature says this and science is, then that's what they say. They're like, oh, all the evidence is this. Oh, all science is this. It's like, well, science is not a person. Okay, it's not saying anything. All right, it is a logical fallacy. Well, it's okay. All right, because without God, there is no sense or rationality. So hey, that's about the same thing. Um, 7 assertions. Okay, he says like, well, you're just making this up. Okay, he's like, obviously, you have to prove these things and you can't because they're impossible or something or whatever. Oh, God exists. All right, God has been observed to exist. Okay, we have several historical references here. We have many preachers, many historians, many other groups of people. That guy, okay, he observed it. That guy observed it. Okay. We have billions of people who have asserted that they believe in God and that God is real in their life. They pray to God. They've had their prayers answered. How many witnesses do you need? Okay. And with this one, they also prove things with Bible prophecy. Okay. There are prophetic events there in those scriptures. We know that the Jews were in Egypt. Because he'll ask about like how God can communicate. Yeah, let me go ahead and get that one. How God can communicate, or that communication has occurred. Well, God by definition can communicate to anybody he wants because he's omnipotent. All right, and you say, well, that's you didn't prove it. Look. If you want me to assert that God exists, you have to know what the definition of the word is. And you're like, no, we don't need definitions. We don't. We just say stuff and it just happens, okay? We'll call your God a flying spaghetti monster, and I'll say yours is a dark matter monster, okay? It's like, ooh, the dark matter did it. Ooh, nothing did it before that. They got the God of nothing, the God of dark matter. And the God of evolution. They've got all these, okay? Pick your faith, all right? But yeah, so can God communicate? Yes, God can communicate. Has it occurred? Yes, it occurred. It occurred right here. Okay. And in other ways, I'd be reasonable to say that too. But this is what's called, all right, the Bible has something called revelation. The revelation is the information, okay? And in here, you find it inspired, okay? And when it's inspired, what that means, it's just been preserved, okay? And then God didn't sit on his hands. He made sure that this thing would be preserved for us. Who wrote Genesis? Moses did. Now, he did it as an editor, okay? And so, as an editor, he would take these things. I think they called them toldoth. Okay, that's a Hebrew word, and basically, it would be like when you look at a gravestone, you'll have like these engravings and stuff like that, and these markers and stuff. And basically, the genealogies and these stories and everything, they were kept record. They were chiseled down. Okay, and Moses had access to those family records, and so he did the editing. Okay, they said while the Jews were moving, so they have all their stuff and all their records and all that kind of stuff that they're hauling around the wilderness, and they go back, and that's where they got it. So, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, the preservation. How do you know it's been preserved? Well, we start with the Masoretic text. Okay, the Masoretic text is been preserved the heck out of it because they preserve it letter by letter by letter by letter by letter, frame, 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 frame. They know where each letter of each page is. Okay, they have a very, very, very strict section that they did with the Masoretic text. And let's see here. And another thing is that, like, once you prove a miracle, we usually start thinking about the miracle of the resurrection. Resurrection would be scientifically impossible. So if science can be broken, well, an atheist world can't take science being broken. Okay. But so what would establish it? Well, basically, we have a recorded miracle, historically recorded miracle in Jesus Christ that is just totally evident. But that's another video. It might be another book. But I'll put stuff down for you. Okay, all you have to do is go look at the comments section, and I'll have references to all these articles that'll show you the stuff. All right, and basically, I do believe that the text behind this, the Hebrew Masoretic and the Textus Receptus, were perfectly preserved, and that this is a translation which is perfect in the way of being the complete Word of God in English, available for all mankind. Okay, I mean, this one itself, the place there by the Gideons, so, it's like, these things have been left everywhere. God is, if God's going to communicate to people, then why not the most reproduced book ever? Okay. Then he's like, well, you don't have any science because Genesis 1, and it talked about the earth being there before the sun was there. How do you explain that? Okay. Well, evolution is bull. Okay. Number 2, God created it. Okay. Number 3, you've not observed a star being formed. People are like, oh, no. We look at our telescope and we make the little image go, boo, make it real big, and we find a little bit of light, and, yeah, but we do the same thing, except we go to a cloud, and we magnify the cloud, and I see a itty-bitty light that nobody ever saw before because we magnified it, and that itty-bitty light has got to be a star. Even if it's a star, okay, you didn't see it form, you just saw it for the first time, right? You saw it in the cloud. You wouldn't say it was a star being formed if you saw it in just darkness, okay? So, yeah, basically they've never seen star formation, and I go through all that stuff in my New Year's cosmology theory. But there was light and there was day, and that light was going around the earth in plasma. Okay, it was a plasmatic light. And basically, God put these waters separated from the waters. Then He made, the forest and the herbs and the trees underneath that protection. Okay, the canopy. And then He formed the stars and all that kind of stuff. And, so here are these trees, and they had to get by with plasmatic light instead of the sun for 24 hours. So, all right. How do they know anything? It kind of comes up a lot. I mean, one of the basic fundamental principles in the theory of relativity is this whole, uncertainty principle, and you really don't, matter breaks down until it becomes energy. But the problem is that energy is nothing without matter. We don't really observe energy. We just talk about it. We see the energy, but basically, if you took all the matter out, then the energy, you couldn't tell if it existed or not. Okay, because all it is interactions with matter. Take the matter out, what's burning? What's glowing? What do you hear? There's nothing to hear, there's nothing to see. I mean, and how do you receive evidence? Okay. That book has got a lot of red in it. That one's got a little bit more. Oh, nope, nope, that one. There's some red right there, right? Okay. How did that object have the chemicals to make itself red and available to my eyes? Okay, I know that gets a little bit deep, but anyhow, so I guess that's the end of this video. I think it was pretty long, so sorry.